Hey guys, it is so good to see you here on this Sunday morning. I am Luke, the next gen minister here at Faith Christian, and I'm just so excited that I get to spend a few minutes talking with you. So today we're going to actually talk a little bit about that comparison game that we just continually fight and play, and it's not great, but we keep doing it. So we're going to talk about that. And you know, that thing that just it gets me is, don't you hate it when things are unfair? Yeah, I do. Like think about this. Like you study your rear end off for this test, and it's just history test, and you study and study and study, and you like barely pass, and then you're talking to your friend, and you know that they did not spend hardly any time studying, and they get a B on it, but you also know that they talked to their other friend who took it 2 hours before they did. Yeah, not fair. This happens to me all the time when I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see that, this person, they just have newest shoes, and, I like a good pair of kicks. And so every once in a while I will see that and I'll think, time for me to get a new pair of shoes. When I have no need for a new pair of shoes, I have too many already. Or, I'll look and I'll see, wow, I never get to visit there. I wish I could go there for a while, and that'd be nice. Like in December when it's cold, and I want to be here, I want to be there, right? So like we get into this cycle, and we just assume that other people's life is just perfectly put together, right? They have everything in just all the right places and all the right spots, and we start to compare, right? And when we start thinking that this other person's life is perfect, we start to think that their life looks better, they look better. We see this familiar reality of their life is greater than my life, or sometimes we see it more as my life is less than their life, right? And so here's the tricky thing about comparing our life to someone else's. We know ourselves too well, right? And so when we start to play that comparison game, we react 3 different ways. 1, we overachieve. 2, we do nothing. Or number 3, we play it over and over in our minds. And comparison always feels bad. I have never done comparison. I've never done that in my mind and come out the other side feeling really good about myself. It doesn't happen. So, we've perfected the art of projecting the life that we want others to think we have, even if it doesn't match the life we actually have. So let me say that again. We've all perfected the art of projecting the life we want others to think we have, even if it doesn't match the life we actually have. And here's the secret. Everyone else is doing the same thing. I do it, you do it, your parents do it, we all do this, right? We all compare ourselves to each other. And we want everyone else to think that we are better than what we actually are. So, let me say it another way. When we compare ourselves to others, we believe things about ourselves based on someone else's half-truths or fully fake display. When we compare ourselves to others, we play that comparison game, we start believing things about ourselves based on someone else's half-true or fully fake display. All right, so one of the greatest teachers and followers of Jesus that ever lived, it was this guy named Paul. All right, he had a pretty messed up background. Check it out in the book of Acts. That's in the second half of the Bible. Check it out. And he made it his mission to make sure that everyone he met knew how their lives would benefit from following Jesus. And when Paul wasn't present with the different churches he planted, he made a point to write letters to stay connected with them. So it's kind of like this right now, right? Like I'm not necessarily sending you a letter, but it's a video because that's what we do now. If Paul could send videos, he would probably send a video. But in these letters, Paul was known for being pretty direct. He was passionate about following Jesus, leading others to do the same. And while everything Paul did was out of love, it's likely that sometimes people felt like they were being called out in areas where they weren't measuring up. So in response, they did what a lot of us do, and they lashed out. They, talked behind his back and tried to tear Paul down. Never done that before. No. So this is how Paul responded to those criticisms, all right? So here's 2 Corinthians 10:12. 2 Corinthians, book of the Bible. It's one of these letters that Paul wrote to these people in Corinth, right? To this church in Corinth, the Corinthians. And so he's writing this letter. So, don't worry. We wouldn't dare say that we are as wonderful as these other men who tell you how important they are. But they are only comparing themselves to each other, using themselves as the standard of measurement. How ignorant. So Paul is saying, in no uncertain terms, that it's absolutely ridiculous to let your behavior in life be based on a comparison to someone else's behavior or life. So if we could sum it up, Paul's saying, hey, look, comparison. Comparing any human to another human is an ignorant idea and makes you look stupid. So there's a principle found in this book of Proverbs. Now, that's in the Old Testament, the first half of the Bible. It's everything before Jesus. Paul would have known this by heart. But here's what it says. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. That's Proverbs 4:23. So our hearts matter because everything else, everything we believe, comes from our hearts. All right? So we should guard our hearts. Now, the opposite of guarding our hearts, and one of the quickest ways to destroy our hearts, is comparison. So don't miss this part. Don't compare your worth with their posts. Don't compare your worth with their posts. And don't make decisions about your worth based on what you see or perceive in other people's posts, right? Don't look at someone else and assume that their life is perfect and conclude that your life is no good. Because in that moment, it doesn't look like theirs. Because they've done 100 different things to make their life look perfect, right? So don't make a decision about how you look or don't look based on someone else's picture. And remember, that picture was probably taken 30 different times, filtered, face-tuned, and edited. So don't make decisions about your worth based on what you see or perceive in other people. All right? So how do we fight this temptation to play the comparison game? Right? How do we guard our hearts like Solomon suggests in that book of Proverbs? So it might not be easy, but it starts with that word guard. So set some boundaries for yourself, right? So set some boundaries for what you see and what you allow your heart to participate in. If something is messing with you, or it just destroys how you feel, it just gets into you just a bad way, take a break. Turn it off. Set those boundaries. All right? So you actually have to actively guard. All right? So you guard your heart when you guard your Instagram. when you guard your Snapchat, when you guard your TikTok, when you guard your scroll, when you guard your thoughts when you're watching the likes roll in or not roll in. You guard your heart when you guard your comments. Guard who you follow. Guard yourself when you interact with others who make you feel less. Guard who you spend time with that constantly complains about their own life. If someone is draining to be around, you're going to be drained. They drain you. Pay attention to that. All right? So when you feel yourself spiraling into that comparison game, stop. Think and ask yourself these questions. All right? Number one, what things are fueling how I feel? If you're feeling crappy about yourself, think about what's making me feel crappy about myself. Number two, what are some things I want to do because of how I feel? So follow your train of thought, right? So if you're feeling bad about yourself, think about, well, what do I want to do because of how I feel? Follow that train of thought, see where it leads you. All right? If you don't like where it leads you, you need to change. You need to change that. Number three, what or who am I comparing to that's bringing up these feelings? Who am I comparing that's bringing up these feelings? All right? We guard our hearts by paying attention to what we feel when we're tempted to play the comparison game. We guard our hearts by paying attention to what we feel when we're tempted to play the comparison game. So don't just push those feelings aside. Don't shove them down. Feel them. Think about what are they making me do? What are they making me want to do? Why are they there? How did I get here? All right? So remember, don't compare your worth with their posts. So, you guys, what would it look like if you began to guard your heart when it comes to comparing your life to others? What would that look like if you began to guard your heart when it comes to comparing your life to others? I hope you do that this week. I hope as you are on Instagram, as you are scrolling through TikToks, as you are just interacting with people, take a minute and breathe. Stop playing the comparison game. All right? I hope you guys have an amazing week. If you are starting school or already have started school, good luck. I hope you have an amazing first week or two. If you haven't started yet, enjoy these last few days of summer. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week.